Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order this meeting for Monday, July 8th for the Wilmette Park District Board of Commissioners. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Leahy?
Here.
Commissioner Frazier?
Here.
Commissioner Clark?
Here.
Commissioner Goebel?
Here.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Here.
Commissioner Duffy?
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Here.
You have a quorum.
First on our agenda this evening is 2.0, the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda of July 8th, 2024, regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners, a copy of which is to be attached and to become a part of the permanent part of the and become a permanent part of the minutes of this meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I will insert a comment that as part of the consent agenda this evening is the decennial efficiency report. This was a committee that has been working to produce a report required by the state of Illinois to be completed every 10 years, documenting the work that the Park District does, mostly in cooperation with other government entities, and the value the Park District provides to the community. So that report will be final upon approval of the consent agenda this evening, and that will be posted on our website and available for the community to review and enjoy. I want to thank the two members of our community at large that assisted with that committee, Kane Osborne and George Pierce, as well as all of the commissioners and the staff that facilitated those additional meetings and what led to that ultimate report, as well as Lindsay Thomas, the superintendent of operations, who did the heavy lifting with the editing of that very lengthy document. So thanks to all involved for that. With that, let's take a vote to approve the consent agenda.
Commissioner Leahy?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Yes.
Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved.
Thank you. That comes to 3.0, communications and correspondence.
Nothing new.
Correspondence I received is in the packet.
I was just going to reference that I think we all received in the mail a piece of correspondence from Gillson Park, Keep Gilson Green. Just wanted to acknowledge that that was received by all of us in town. Later in this meeting, Director Wilson, as part of his updates and reports, will speak to what's the latest status at the Gilson Park improvements for which that is referring to. There are some factual inaccuracies, perhaps, or for some things written in this postcard that aren't necessarily congruous with what we believe is happening. And so Director Wilson will explain more information that will be forthcoming on some of those to clear up any confusion in the community as to exactly the nature of the project that will be beginning this fall at Gilson Park for the roadway improvements. With that, we'll go to 4.0, public comment and recognition of visitors. Anyone is invited to speak to the board this evening. You have 3 minutes to come up to the podium. You would state your name and then share with us what you would like to share. As a few housekeeping items, the board does not interact. It's not a Q&A. It's your opportunity to address us. We will happily listen, take notes of any questions, and to the extent possible, we'll speak to those answers later in the meeting, or someone from staff will follow up with you this week with regards to specific questions that are asked of the board this evening. We have a sign-in sheet. This is specifically a speaking sheet, so I have about 10 names that have already indicated an interest to speak. I know I have another guest speaker as well. Again, you have 3 minutes. Director Wilson will keep time. When you have 30 seconds remaining, he will hold up a sign so that you have a little visual cue that you should be wrapping up your comments at that time. That just helps us keep order and good business for all. So we will add an additional sign-up sheet over here. Can we do that, please? I will go through this list in order first, and then I will take remaining hands. You know what, Michelle? It will be fine. I'll just, after I get through this list.
I just received a message but there was no live sound for this meeting from somebody who was watching on video.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up.
Correct. The Comcast Channel 6 broadcast is having audio difficulties. The streaming online version does have audio. The tech crew from the village tried to resolve it today, but were unsuccessful.
Oh, that's good to note at the outset of the meeting. So if anyone has friends and family watching at home, you can watch it on the online link, not the television.
And
link.
the recorded video that gets posted is based on the streaming video. So the archive video will have the audio.
So later tonight or tomorrow morning, the full
Correct.
audio will be there. Okay. Thank you, and sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. So,
Real quick, do we want to quickly describe how you get to the stream? I know it's pretty easy for us because we watch it. It's on wilmette.gov, and then under Connect, and then it sends you to channels, the YouTube channel. Am I missing anything? I just want to...
I think that's correct.
Okay.
so as I said, I'll go in the order of the folks that have signed up, and after that, I'll just move across the room for anyone else that would like to speak. First up, I have Cheryl Simpson. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Cheryl, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I already forgot. If you don't mind one moment, may I ask you to sit down? I was going to call up Jeannie Rosser from New Trier Township. This is a little bit addition to public comment. She wants to share with the public some exciting news from the township.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My name is Jean Rosser, and I am the social worker for New Trier Township. I administer all the social service programs. And I'm here to talk about our child care scholarship program, specifically our summer camp program, and how it's benefited the families in Wilmette. The child care scholarship program started in 1992. It was for daycare only, defined as children ages birth through 5, and the budget was $47,000 a year to serve 40 children. In 2000, the board expanded that, provided an extra $10,000 so that we could do before and after school programs and summer camp programs for children 6 to 12. And those are the 3 child care scholarships which continue today. Specifically today, though, I'm going to talk about summer camp scholarships because we just did those disbursements. Over the years, the camp budget and the number of children receiving scholarships has grown substantially. For our current fiscal year, the summer camp budget was $75,000. The overall budget for before, after school, daycare, and summer camp is $170,000. But again, I'm focused on summer camp. In June, the township, and I personally delivered it because I don't trust the mail, delivered a check for $51,075 to Megan Moser at the Park District, and this covered scholarships for 30 children, and it was 68% of our total $75,000 budget for 2024. Now, the township has always required that families apply for any available funding from the camp programs, including any scholarship assistance available from the Wilmette Park District. And we're very lucky to work with Michelle and Megan in that regard so that we can try to give as much coverage as possible to families, because our collaboration lowers the total financial burden for families. And these families are working parents. They're either working full or part-time, they're in school, many of them are single, and their children are at an age that requires supervision during the summer. My kids are grown, but I remember when I was working and they were younger, that was the biggest thing. What do you do during the summer to keep your kids safe? And the demographic breakdown of all the families receiving camp scholarships this year, almost 60% are single parents. Over 70% have adjusted gross incomes, annual incomes, $50,000 or less, and try to think about what that's like to live on a gross of $50,000 or less in this township. 68% have adjusted gross incomes of $40,000 or less per year, and the average age of the child receiving scholarship assistance is 8.9 years. And again, these are not kids that you can leave home alone. You have got to make sure that they not only are supervised, but that they're having fun. And one of the examples that of a Wilmette family had some tragedy. One parent had just recovered from cancer. Another parent, unfortunately, was diagnosed and died. And the surviving parent said, you know what? I just want my child to have fun this summer. I just want my kid to be a kid. In terms of the other programs for 2024, for daycare, we did have scholarships for 5 children. 100% of those kids lived in Wilmette. And for before and after school, which was fall of 23, there were 12 children who received scholarships. 9 of them resided in Wilmette, so that's 75%. So hopefully, if you didn't know about our program, now you do. And hopefully you realize that we are working very hard to be good partners with the families in the Park District. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For that update, Jean. And I would underscore it's a great night that comes with the efficiency report, because this is a classic example of how together the different agencies in our area can cooperate and collaborate to serve more families and more needs within our community. So thank you for that, and thank you for the funds on behalf of our families and kids.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We have so much support from Detroit Township to Wilmette, so thank you very much for that. And I would note that the Wilmette Foundation also is contributing $20,000 this year to the Park District Scholarship Program. So good news all the way around. Thank you.
So we extend our thanks to the Wilmette Foundation as well. And Cheryl, thank you for your patience, as I almost forgot those important announcements at the beginning. So with that, we will open traditional public comment.
Okay, my name is Cheryl Simpson. I live at 1518 Washington, and I have 2 comments today. One concerns the pathway, the walking pathway, and the combined bicycle path that you're looking at for Gillson, and I support that because I've almost been run over in Gillson by one bicycle and a motorized scooter, and I do not support a combined walking bicycle path. I think it's a safety issue, and right outside here in our village, there's a sign, safety first. Please walk your bike on the sidewalk. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why cyclists shouldn't be combined with walkers. So, and I think, too, there are a lot of people who feel that way who may not be expressing that to you, but people I talk with, people maybe who are my age, are concerned about it. So my second issue is the fence. I don't support the fence. And I agree with many of the comments that people have said over the last few weeks, but I have a question. If there has to be a charge, why are we charging children? Because, I'm thinking about these people who come with maybe 3 kids and 2 parents, and they have to pay $20 for the parents, and then another additional $30 for the children. I just, think back to my own kids. They were raised in Wilmette, raised on the beach, love to go to the South Beach and play, or the other beach and swim. And I just feel we're denying that opportunity to so many children. And, children who may not be from our community where the parents can't really afford to be putting out $10 a kid. So I'm curious, was this not discussed? Just seems like a bad decision.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next, I have Robert Kirsch. Robert Kirsch.
I'm Robert Kirsch from 126 Woodbine in Wilmette, and I really want to talk a little bit about decision making. This board, for me, has not been a remarkable board in any area, especially decision making. The example I will quickly point out is the fence. How can an organization like yours, which represents us, decide to give us a rule that there has to be a fence? You didn't go through proper protocol. You didn't talk to us. And even the first meeting, I could point out a couple of you didn't even listen to me. One person even yelled at me because I couldn't hear what people were saying. And then she said, "It doesn't make any difference. We are the only ones who need to hear." One of the problems with your decision-making is probably public comment. You sit there and you listen and you do nothing. And sometimes you keep us an hour and say, we'll answer some of those questions in an hour, and then you don't. So I'm going to stay tonight, and I hope to hear some answers. But I think you have to examine yourselves about decision-making. It's not working. You do not have the quality of life. You didn't even consider me and senior citizens. So I could say a lot more. I think you've heard enough.
Koenig, Ray, maybe?
Pass the time to the next speaker.
Okay, thank you. Carol Kagan?
Apologize for my terrible handwriting. Yeah, you know who I am. I'm Carol Kagan. I live in Wilmette because I've been to every one of these meetings. And I came in to the first meeting very much with an open mind. I did not have any animus against the Park District. I'm still not part of Unfenced Gillson. I was willing to listen. But I never got answers to my questions. And I think my questions were important. I think they're the same questions many, many people in the village are asking. What is the problem? You have not defined the problem. And that seems to be very much a moving target. When I first asked my question, which was what was the problem, we were given a statistic about how many police reports there were, which turned out to be absolutely irrelevant. I want to know what the problem. Now you say there are problems. It needs to be empirical. It needs to be specific. It needs to be something that would that warrants what the Park District has done, and also that what the Park District has done solves the problem without undue impact. So I want to know again what the problem was, what solutions were considered, where were the other solutions rejected. Otherwise, the only thing I can conclude from listening to the Park District, and I've been up here 3 times, I've read everything you've written, it just sounds like a money grab. That's all it sounds like. Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly Panair.
Hi, I'm Beverly Panair. I know a lot of you. My husband and I have lived in Wilmette for 36 years. We've raised our kids here. The beach and the park have been a big part of our lives, and I am really appreciative that you guys, volunteer to do this. I know it's thankless, but you guys really blew it, and I hope that at some point you can say mea culpa or make some changes. I just hope you don't dig in. First of all, I have some questions, and it sounds like this is a common theme tonight, that some of us feel like our questions haven't really been answered. So I'm going to enumerate them at the end. But first of all, did anybody look into moving the cow meetings to here? I know we had talked about it 2 weeks ago, and someone was going to look into that, just because they are filmed and it's a better setup than Malincrot. So I'm just curious if anybody did that. That's one question. At the meeting 2 weeks ago, I asked about budget versus actual results, and I was told that it was too early. I'm a CPA, and I got to tell you what, if this was my project, spending other people's money, I would be all over those expenses. And I'm disappointed that you didn't have them to share or you didn't want to share. So I'll ask again, if there's any budgets or forecasts, were there budgets created before this project was embarked on? Where can I find that? Also, what other options were discussed instead of the fence, and were they costed out? That's never been discussed. I really think you guys are missing the forest through the trees. You had 2 big problems, and I understand those. But and you've solved those, but you've created tremendous ill will and tremendous hardship for our senior citizens and our handicapped and people just that needs a mental break, that they can just look at the lake. And you guys haven't considered them. You all say, oh, thank you. You all say that we're the cheapest beach in town. We're not. Evanston is free to Evanston residents, and I think you guys forget to say that. Okay, so anyway, so here's my question. Did you make a budget for the South Beach project, and where can I get it? What other solutions and options were discussed? What was considered? Were costs considered? Was there any research done? Why was resident input not requested? And what are your plans to solve the problem for the elderly and the handicapped who historically are terribly underrepresented? And this is no exception. And can the cow meetings be moved to Village Hall? So that's 5 questions.
Paul McKinley.
Hi, my name is Paul McKinley. I'm a resident. I live at 129 Prairie Avenue. This is my 3rd Park District meeting. I was hoping to receive some answers on the fence, which I don't feel have been adequate yet, as many others have mentioned. And I'm going to read the second part of an article posted on therecordnorthshore.org. And this was after the lawsuit in July 2023. You hired a third-party fact-finding review done by Michelle Marks. I'm going to paraphrase a bit for time. Marks was looking into Wilson and specifically hiring and promotional practices. Documents show at least 8 Park District employees were interviewed as part of the investigation, which concluded in August 2023. There is no documentation of this. The results were delivered to you orally behind closed doors. And several Park District's employees, including one who participated in the investigation, told the record, 1, result of the investigation was to place Wilson on a performance improvement plan. The participant, who was a Park District supervisor at the time but wished to remain anonymous, told the record that many department leaders felt unsupported by Wilson, and the district was a rudderless ship for a while. 2 other Park District employees, both who wished to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation, said staff morale had gotten worse since the Park Board's investigation, and after a short time of improvement, Wilson's behavior, from negligence of staff needs to favoritism and unequal treatment, has returned. The feeling is, as staff, we're being let down by the board. A former employee who worked in the administrative offices with Wilson said the favoritism towards one manager was very obvious and contributed to a toxic environment. The decline in employee morale has correlated with the departure of several Park District managers in a short period of time. In a year's time since May 2023, the district has turned over at least 9 of its manager level and above staff members, list names. These changes become more dramatic when zoomed out further. Of the 9 members of the district's administrative staff in February 2020, only 3 remain with the Park District, 2 of which are Wilson and the employee involved in the inappropriate relationship with him. My question to you is, during this period of internal strife, what could have been happening to try and prevent the issues at the beach? And was this really a safety issue, or is it a management issue? Thank you.
Gala Wisniewska. I'm sorry if I can't read your writing. Very good.
Hello, everybody. I live in 1135. I'm a retired person, and if you do such a decision to make such a serious change to the public access. There should be a proper discussion with the resident of Wilmette, and ultimate a vote. The residents should determine how to beach access to operated. Now, I am 73. I'm not can afford it. Pay every day $5 to go to the beach. That's very expensive for elderly. And you never even thought how look the beach ugly. And I think you have to change decision. That's a not good decision. We wait for you more for the people who live here. Thank you. I'm done.
Piper Rothschild.
Piper Rothschild, 1046 Elmwood. I, like many residents, including the 70-plus who took the time to send you emails, ask you to revise your plans for Gillson's roadways. We believe that you have not adequately considered resident opinion, safety, trees, or Gillson's history. Residents have stated that their number one priority for outdoor amenities is trails and paths. The data is clear, and we expect you to follow it, but you are not, even though each of you said you would when you authorized and paid for that survey. Why are you letting the community down? Contrary to the assertion of one board member at the last meeting, a 5-foot wide sidewalk is not a trail. Your plan crams pedestrians onto a slim 5-foot sidewalk next to a road on one side and squeezed against a fence and trees on the other. There is no buffer from traffic like the parkways throughout the village. So when people walking in groups with dogs on leashes, with young children, or people in wheelchairs or other mobility devices, some will be in the street. That is not safe. As for bicyclists, your proposed bike lane is unprotected with no barriers, leaving bikers vulnerable to passing traffic. Walkers who cannot walk together in groups or pass each other on your narrow sidewalk will be forced into the bike lane, which will then force bikers into traffic. In addition, I have photos from every time of the year and many times a day in which cars and trucks are parked in your proposed bike lane, whether delivery vehicles, lacrosse parents, boat trailers, Sheridan Shore drop-offs, or police and fire trucks. That is not safe. Safety, you say you wanted South Beach. Why not for the many walkers and bikers and riders in the park? Where are your safety concerns for them? You likewise give lip service to Gillson's significant history. You say that you celebrate Gillson's National Register designation and in fact stated affirmatively at the June 2022 board meeting, and I quote, "The board does not wish to endanger something that is truly historic." But that is exactly what you are doing. If you have read the National Register nomination or listened to Landmarks Illinois, landscape historian Julia Bachrach, or esteemed North Shore historian Susan Benjamin, you would understand that a key reason why Gillson is deemed historic is its unique roadway design. You are not landscape architects and should not presume to be. Please do not substitute your judgment for the expert landscape professionals who designed this great park. Your plan to narrow Mill Drive, move Harbor Drive, and add a 100-foot-long retaining wall destroys this historic design. These are not, contrary to what Mr. Wilson says, minor changes. Maybe you think a few road changes here or a few road changes there is no problem. What is valuable and important about landscapes is their design. When you change that design, you trample on history. And your plans are permanent. Once the original design is gone, it is gone. History is obliterated, character is erased, but you don't seem to care. You have never properly considered the history, even after learning how significant and important it is. This is unconscionable and an insult to our community.
Thank you
What is
very much,
most egregious is that none of your road changes are necessary. You are trampling on history for no good reason. You have a choice to make walking and biking safer and easier, but you have failed to do so. That will be your legacy, desecrating Gillson's history and minimizing safety. There is a safer choice that preserves Gillson's roadway design, the alternative path. Our community prefers it. Over 300 people have signed a petition in favor of it, and we deserve it. It's not too late. Please adopt it. Thank you.
Thank you, Piper. Gail P.
I'm in front of you again, and I'm not a resident. I'm part of the public, that vast public that has loved your South Beach free area for a long time. And this is the third time I've been in front of you folks. I've been at 3 meetings now. And I, like Carol Kagan, kind of have the same kind of feeling. I came in front of you very vulnerable, talking about how important that area was to me the first time. The second time I came up and I tried to finish giving you police responses to Freedom of Information Act. And I didn't get to finish it that night at the regular meeting June 10th. I read it off to you folks June 24th. And what I'm interested in knowing is why, one of the things I would like to know, and I'm getting disillusioned with you guys, with you folks after all of this. I'm getting a lot of misleading information from you. You've been imparting misleading information to your residents, through the FOIAs, that's part of it. There's been no arrest in the memo from the beach staff to the board in March when they requested this proposal. They said that there were reports of assault and battery, and yet the FOIA requests from the Wilmette Police Department showed no assault and battery in 4 years from the beach, or actually in the park. Can't explain the discrepancy between what you're telling us and what the police is, but it's really not my job to explain those discrepancies. Now, at the last meeting, I had to wait for 2 hours after the public comment, which was incredibly, I just can't believe kind of how rude you are to people who have come to giving you the time to ask questions. So I waited for 2 hours after the public comment to hear what your responses were. And Commissioner Duffy said that he looked at Director Wilson and he said, was there ever any swimmers at risk at South Beach? And he said no, and so he said no. But in fact, by chance, well, we know that there's been, for swim at your own risk signs placed at Langdon and also at Gillson Beach. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm not sure, I've said this in my Facebook group, but I'm not sure how many Wilmette residents swim. So the last few years has been an issue since COVID, not just with Wilmette, but with beaches in general, having lifeguards that can work the season. And it turns out that your rainout line from last August 31st had a thing here from Ben Wozni, who was the Lakeshore. Anyway, bottom line is you've allowed swim at your own risk when you don't have lifeguards at the end of the season. And this rainout line actually says it. It says no lifeguards on duty, swim at your own risk. This is your rainout line. And at the bottom of it, additional information's got Gillson Beach, South Beach, Langdon Beach. Okay? And that's in writing, and I will be happy to give that to you so that you can include that. I would also like to see my Freedom of Information, the arrest reports that I gave you. I would like to see that. I'd like to know why that's not included in your minutes. There's twice now, and I'd like to know actually why you aren't approving minutes from now in the July meeting from the June. Why there's no minutes. Because there was, I'm going to finish the other with misleading stuff. There's misleading in the minutes from May 20th regarding multiple incidents on the beach that Director Wilson mentioned at the meeting. That's not in your minutes. Regarding his comments with swim at your own risk, it's not in the minutes. We have it on audio, so we know what was said at that May 20th meeting. But your minutes don't include it. And I find that, after a while of dealing with all this, I'm just highly disheartened. I know you guys are volunteers. I'm going to finish this real quick. I met Commissioner Duffy, totally unrelated, 2 years ago down at Elmwood. We had a wonderful conversation. I just don't understand, with a lawsuit in your face that is horrible, investigations, massive community outcry against this. What is it you guys are holding on to here?
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. We'll try to keep public order. That exhausts the list that I had pre-signed up. If you have not spoken yet and you would like to address the board, may I see a hand, please? Okay, I see 4 hands. Okay, we'll start over here with this gentleman and we'll work our way. I'm sorry, are you also wanting to speak? Okay, we'll get to you as well.
Hello, I'm Devin McAllister. I live at 323 Wilshire Drive East in Wilmette. And I guess I'll start by just talking about the lake and what it means to me. I grew up here. I had a kayak and a sailboat at the sailing beach. I went to the swimming beach. I went to the South Beach. I went year-round. I had a wetsuit, went in the water year-round. I sailed, and I surf, and I kayak, and I go swimming. And, that's a tremendous part of my life. And I feel like, when you are on the water, when you're in the water, when you're experiencing the lake, you're experiencing something that you can never experience anywhere else. It's a unique opportunity. And I feel like the lake as a natural environment is not something that's owned by an individual. It's not something that's owned by a community or a board. It's owned by the people. And there are certain things that everyone should have access to just by being a human. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And for me personally, I think that being on the water and around the water in your own way, whatever that is to you, is life. And water is integral to my experience, and I feel like it should be shared. And my concern with this fence is that it seems like, as many people have said, that many ideas have been floated for why this fence was put in place. But I don't think anything that has been floated holds water. I think the reason the fence is there is because a certain segment of the community wishes to keep that beach for themselves and to keep people out. People come from the city, they come on the train, they walk from the Linden station, and they might not look like me. They might speak a different language and have different skin color. They might be poor. They might not be able to afford $10 a person if you come in a family group. But they're just as deserving as me to experience what I've experienced. Because the lake is mine and it's theirs and it's all of ours. And I really feel like the fence represents excluding people and pushing them out from something that's actually communally owned. I also want to mention that other communities along the lake, along the coast, every coast in this country have free and open and public beaches. I was just in Hawaii, and every beach in the state is free and open to the public. Even if you have a private development, that beach has an easement, and you can go there. And it works. It's not hard. People go there. If they're not comfortable swimming, they don't go swimming. And on the beaches with the lifeguards, it's still free and open, and the lifeguards save lives when they can, and people are able to enjoy the water, and I see no reason why they can't in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Anastasia Royal. I've been to every meeting here, and I've spoken at every meeting. I've even sang a song. We don't need your separation. We don't need your fence control. Hey, Park District, leave our beach alone. So I think local government is really amazing, and it can do a lot for people. And it actually can change people's lives in dramatic ways, and it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. And in this instance, with the beach, which is extremely important to me because I like to swim every day, Devin, I'm with you on all of this. I think you've done something really horrible, and I don't think it's going to stand. I will do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't. I have been a member of this community for over 50 years. I have seen the beach becoming increasingly authoritarian and with draconian and whimsical laws constantly. I have been harassed constantly for the past 10 years. The most recent, I'm not going to even go into all the times I've defended people who are yelled at by certain people who you don't train. I think it's an administrative problem because I teach young people every day. I do voice and piano training in 3 different music schools across the United States, and some in this community in person. And I can tell you that young people are really wonderful, and they're able to be trained. They don't need an off-duty police person. They can be trained all kinds of things. They're almost fully adult, actually, in my opinion. And I've had wonderful discussions with a lot of these lifeguards, but now it's a different story. I just want to relate the last incident because there's been many, many, many over the past 10 years that I have endured, and I won't do it anymore. So it was at the 5th of, the 5th, right after the Right at the 4th of July. Well, actually, there was an incident on the 4th of July, which I won't go into because it's so sad. I find the people you train are authoritarian, and they're in your face. I just want something simple. I want to go to the beach. I want to walk on the beach. I want to swim every day. I'm not a criminal. Everybody feels like they're a criminal at Gillson Beach. They've talked to me about it. I know many, many people. I've taken their photos. I don't see any of them there anymore because they're foreigners and they can't come and they can't afford it. So I also want to say that I also got a letter today, which was absolutely enraging. So I wasn't able to say the enraging things that happened where I was told I couldn't take a photo. In the one area where you can take a photo, they said, "Excuse me, miss, we're uncomfortably taking photos." I was also circled by lifeguards when I was talking 3 separate times to my neighbors, and they came directly and looked at me and said, "Is there something wrong?" They do not get to say what I talk about on the beach. They do not get to talk about what I do with my camera. I'm sorry, that is draconian, that is insane, that is Dostoevskian. And I just want to say, I received a letter from the Park District, and it said, and it really enraged me this morning, and this is the letter that you never sent to us about putting up a fence preemptively and possibly illegally because it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to no one, but it is actually under the aegis of the state of Illinois. So this is a letter that I think you guys should have written to us. Dear neighbor, the Wilmette Park District invites you to attend a second public meeting. Good news, we recently preemptively and maybe illegally appropriated the state of Illinois-owned Gillson Park State Beach. During this meeting, we will review the results from the first meeting discussing several potential improvements for Gillson Park South Beach. We will be discussing the following. Number 1, a new fence about 950 feet long and 4 feet high. Number 2, accessibility updates, including obstructions for disabled and elderly. Yay! 3, updates on new park closures, which will now be at 8 p.m.
Ms. Royal,
That's even before sunset.
You've gone a minute past. Thank you so
Yes.
much. If you'd like to submit that to us in writing.
Well, I've submitted a lot of things asking for clarity on all kinds of issues, including the 258 incidents that you claimed were the reason you put the fence up, and the greenwashing about the dunes, which is completely illusory. And guess what? I've never received one email back from any of you.
Thank you.
Hello, Jeff Axelrod again. I'm here tonight to address the deeply concerning management issues plaguing our park district, particularly how they relate to the management of Gillson Beach. Over the past year, there has been an unprecedented exodus of experienced managers. In that time, at least 9 park district managers have left. The mass departure is a clear indicator of the toxic work environment fostered by the current leader. A recent news investigation reveals a disturbing pattern of misconduct allegations and internal strife. The mismanagement extends to our beloved Gillson Beach, and the fence is a prime example. The current leadership's heavy-handed approach, which prioritizes control over effective beach management, has proven detrimental to both staff and the community. It is not only unnecessary, but also reflects a misunderstanding of lakefront management. We need experts who know how to manage our lakefront responsibly and who can balance the needs of safety and public access without resorting to such extreme measures. These issues didn't exist under previous lakefront management, who have since fled the department, leading to the current situation. You are inappropriately demanding young, untrained high school students to act as beach security, asking them to enforce policies that make them, both them and the public, uncomfortable. This is not only unfair to these young workers, but also potentially dangerous and further demonstrates the lack of effective management strategies. But perhaps most egregiously, your attempt to dictate what residents can and cannot do on a state of Illinois beach oversteps your jurisdiction. Everyone has the right to enjoy our state beach without unnecessary restrictions imposed by our park district, and this overreach must stop. The Park District urgently needs to bring in experts who understand how to effectively manage a lakefront without resorting to fences and fees. We need to return to the previous approach of building positive relationships and using de-escalation techniques to handle conflicts. In summary, I call on this board to first address the toxic work environment and management issues. Second, engage in transparent public hearings about beach management and Park District management in general. Third, respect the state of Illinois jurisdiction over the lakefront. And most importantly, the fence at Gillson Beach should be taken down to restore public trust and enjoyment of our beautiful lakefront. The community at large is suffering due to these misguided decisions. It's time to restore our park district to its former status as a source of community pride, not controversy and embarrassment. Thank you.
Hi, Cheryl Balabin. I've lived in Wilmette. I grew up in Wilmette since I was 3, and then I brought my family back here to enjoy the same beautiful village that we live in. We are a village of opinion. We're smart people in this village. We're involved people, as you can see by the response over this issue. I fill out every survey. Most recently, I filled out a survey that gave me 4 options of color combinations for a tot lot. But somehow, we didn't get any queries to the public about the changes at Gillson Beach. One question that has not been answered is who decided or who requested an additional swim beach. I was there even on Father's Day, and while there were plenty of people there, we walked with permission of the 17-year-old in charge. We walked all the way up towards the North Beach, which had plenty of room for the overfill if people wanted the security of lifeguards and a bathroom and food service. But in the meantime, there were plenty of people who were outraged and kind of hurt. And an Australian tourist I met who said, What? Where is a beach not free? In Chicago, it's free. In Evanston, it's free. In California, it's free. In Australia, it's free. But somehow there are no longer any beaches that we can attend or use our free time to go to. I do want to talk about the meeting structure. And I understand that the way it's been changed, everybody gets an opportunity to speak. We don't have to wait through the sometimes long-winded, uninteresting parts of the meeting so that we can be heard. I appreciate that change. However, what it means is there's no actual interface with the public whatsoever. We raise questions, you sit there looking pleasantly or stone-faced at us, as might be your way, but no one ever gets an answer. You can hear the frustration of the community. The media has talked about the frustration of the community. And frankly, I think there's kind of a no confidence being expressed that partly because of the recent lawsuit and partly because of the decisions that were made without public input that were so important to the villagers, we wonder about your ability to focus on the villagers' needs and wants. This is our beach. It's not your beach. You're members of the community. Be a part of the community when an answer so vitally important to so many people arises. The signs I've seen say unfenced Gillson. It's not just the physical barrier, as our neighbor represented earlier, but in and of itself, it's a symbol. Unfenced Gillson. Let us be that welcoming, open community where someone is going from a beach or a restaurant, has the ability to take their grandchildren, has time to go sit and read a book for a half an hour. We need some place, we deserve part of the beach, which has historically, there has always been a place for us to go. Please restore that to us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Connie Siegel. I've lived here 40 years. I'm on Maple Avenue in Wilmette. And I really wasn't going to come up and speak because I feel like from the last meetings I've been to, where there won't be any answers. And I've I'm not understanding why. It does feel like there's a real you all against us. I don't understand that. And I feel like there's some kind of secrecy in why you're really doing the things you're doing. And I don't want to feel that way. As she just said, we're all part of this community. So please, will you tell me when we will actually publicly get some answers that are truthful? Thank you.
Yes. Those were all of the hands that I saw that asked to address the board this evening. Confirming, okay. With that, we will close this portion of this public comment section for this evening. Thank you all for your time. I do encourage you to stick around. This meeting will be shorter than the cow until we can start answering some of those questions. We will turn it over now to Director Wilson for the first of the staff reports.
Thank you. As you mentioned at the beginning of public comment, you were looking for a little bit of a status update on the roadway project at Gillson. In the June board meeting, the board approved the contracts for the low bidder, Abbey Construction, to do the construction of the roadway, sidewalk, and sewers. That work is scheduled to begin after Labor Day in September. And we'll probably wrap up in the spring just because of the winter weather. As far as the postcard mailing and the information included in that, we are developing a response to the emails that we've received based on that postcard, as well as a frequently asked questions document, a project page to make sure we present all the relevant information to the public broadly. When we get that all lined up this week, we'll send an email to the community letting them know that that information is available. Staying at Gillson, in my report I mentioned that the report was written before July 3rd, which is the big day of celebration of the Independence Day holiday by this community. It started in the morning with the Yankee Doodle Dash. We had our largest group of participants at about 600 runners. Despite the rain, everyone had a great time and enjoyed post-race snacks provided by the Park District and various sponsors. In the early afternoon, the festivities moved to Centennial for the Star Spangled Splash, where residents could swim free at Centennial Family Aquatic Center, enjoy games, bounce houses, crafts, and music, all capped off by a confetti fireworks display at the end of the event. At 5 o'clock, everything returned to Gillson, where we had 2 bands on stage, various performers involved, approximately 7 food vendors, and it all culminated in the fireworks display in the evening at around 9:30. Let me just switch documents here. So that's Gillson and Independence Day. I'll pause there, see if there's any questions or comments from anyone before I continue on.
No, just jealous I missed it.
We missed you.
No, you didn't.
Moving to South Beach, since the last regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners, we've made a couple more alterations to the fencing at South Beach. First, we've widened the entrance in the middle entrance of the 3 entrances to enhance the views from the benches that are directly outside of the fence along the sidewalk. We have seen people sitting on the benches enjoying the view, as well as sitting in parked cars just outside of the opening. In addition, near the southern entrance, staff has put a temporary bench to, see if we can have more seating areas with better views. So that's directly outside of the most southern entrance. And then you might have seen recently that we've also added the ADA beach access matting that we have at the main beach in Gillson. We've put that also on South Beach at the middle entrance. In addition to those adjustments, I just want to provide a little more information to the board on feedback received from the staff on how the operations are going at South Beach. The entrance points have allowed for our staff to interact with beachgoers and inform them of the rules before they're already on the beach and set up for the day. This has definitely resulted in more positive interaction with our patrons before it becomes a conflict. At times, the beach and security staff are noticing individuals on the beach without a wristband. This happens sometimes. People come around the fence. They might hop the fence or just get missed at the admission process. People have definitely, listened to the staff, gone up and gotten their bracelets, so that's a good thing. Occasionally we have people swimming outside of the designated area, but because there is a swimming area, there's no more conflict when we inform people. It's not you can't swim, it's you need to swim over here, and people generally comply. At this point in time, at the time I wrote this memo, we had 2 non-emergency calls and 1 emergency call to the police, none of them coming from South Beach. And then we've also spoken with our maintenance staff about their day-to-day operations, and they've informed us that as compared to prior years where they were spending approximately 2 hours per day cleaning up whatever was left on the beach from the prior day, now it's down to about 30 minutes. Management team is reporting they're spending significantly less time assisting seasonal staff with patron compliance with rules, and therefore able to manage the remaining portions of the beach more effectively. I'll pause there before I continue.
Yeah, so I'd like to try and address some of the questions. I mean, many of them were questions that we've answered in the past, but I'd like to clarify one more time, who owns the land, including the beach at Gillson?
The land at Gillson Beach was all of Gillson was initially conveyed to the Wilmette Park District by the state in 1911. Then the portion that is south of the Rock Jetty, where Dog Beach is, and formerly what we had our aquatics camp located on, was created through the spoils of dredging the harbor, and in the 1970s that land was conveyed to the Park District by the state.
So the Park District owns the beach, and nobody owns the lake, right? The lake is public property in itself, the water. And then the people have the...
That's the high water mark, right?
No, it's not. Not in the state of Illinois. It's wet sand. In Wisconsin, in Indiana, and Michigan, it's average high water.
Yeah, the laws are definitely different from state to state.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to clarify that public trust doctrine means anyone can walk the beach at any time. They're
Correct.
welcome to walk the beach anytime.
Correct.
Yes. But the key that there's somebody who really wants to enforce it, it's wet sand in the state of Illinois. That's where you're allowed to be as public. And that's where, between Langdon and Gillson, sometimes there's issues with people coming up onto private property.
Yeah, it must stay off of private property, obviously.
Yeah. One of the questions was there was no public input on the fence. We had public meetings about the fence when it was first brought up by staff, and in that meeting we touched on why this was the solution chosen, and the question was whether there were other solutions considered before a fence. Can you just tap dance on how we got to the fence for us?
Sure. Staff, when our former lakefront manager and I first started talking about trying to resolve the issues he and his staff were experiencing at South Beach, we did talk about potentially, not fencing, but charging just to be in the water versus not being in the water. It was something that, I think everyone would like to try and make work, but we just couldn't come up with a plan that we felt was going to be effective and really reduce the conflict that we were already experiencing, where people come in, they set up, and then you get a chance to interact with them and tell them, I'm sorry, no, that's not how it works. You need to do this. And that's where the conflict points tend to come to the surface. So ultimately, we also looked at a swim at your own risk idea. We consulted with PDERMA, the Park District Risk Management Agency, which is our insurance pool, for a lack of a better term, but it's the Park District Risk Management Group, where we all kind of work together as an industry to minimize the risk involved in what we do on a day-to-day basis. And they advise that running a paid swimming beach next to a swim at your own risk beach opened up a lot of liability issues. While swim at your own risk doesn't inherently bring issues if that's the only thing you're doing on a property, but to have a lifeguarded beach next to swim at your own risk beach was going to create some liability issues, so we did not pursue that any further either.
So I will pause and add to what Director Wilson said. In addition to one of, excuse me.
Directly contradicts what you said.
Excuse me. All right, we'll wait for you to leave.
No, you're not.
One of the questions.
It just started happening right before the 3rd of July that you removed 8 feet
should
of
we
fence.
take a recess?
Could we have
Thank you. We're speaking to the questions that were brought up. I was going to say, to Director Wilson's point, one of the questions that was asked, a couple of questions that were asked that I think we have almost answered, but I want to be abundantly clear to answer them. One of the questions was regarding if the former beach staff, the former beach supervisor was involved in the decision-making for this. There seemed to be a perception that this happened after his departure, and I would like to clarify that it was upon his recommendation, having spent several years serving our beach, as well as our current staff that worked with him. At the time it was presented to us, he was still working with us and very concerned for the safety of the beach and very much part of the proposals that were presented. There were multiple scenarios. There were some financial calculations as well as to cost and different options. That was all part of the initial staff work. And I would clarify the distinction for all that as a board, we are here to govern the policy, the finance of the district. We are not necessarily here to dictate the hours and operations of every detail of the facility. We do employ our staff to do that. And so at the point that this was brought to the board, recognizing it was a large change from past practice, it was circulated to the board for input and for discussion, but ultimately the board agreed to support the staff's efforts to make a change this year that would address the concerns that were brought to us. They were multiple. They were not one particular concern. For those that are saying that they don't think we've articulated why the fence was put in place, I would direct to the proposals. Steve, am I correct that those original proposals from beach staff have been posted at this point?
So the memo in the March 18th committee of the whole meeting was the proposal.
Yes. So I would direct you to that meeting for that information, and the reasons and the rationale for this were presented there. This is, from the very onset, this was presented as something must be tried. This is the plan for 2024. We're listening. I think Director Wilson has spoken again tonight. I will add a little animation perhaps to some of the things that he read through. I know he's reading through his report, but there's an ADA map that now takes someone that needs accessibility all the way to the water itself. On social media, you can go and see pictures of it. You can go down and see it yourself as well. There are new benches that have completely unobstructed views of the water. Some of the fences that were initially placed have been moved and reshuffled to improve some of that. So I would reiterate that we have been listening. It does not mean we're going to reverse course in the middle of this season, but staff is making as many adjustments as they find possible and reasonable to accommodate the things that have been pointed out. So we do appreciate the comments that have been brought out. When that fence was initially installed, even before the first comment came from the public, several members on this board and staff themselves observed, gee, that fence is like right in front of the bench. That's not great. And staff was already working on rerouting some of those fences. So in addition to feedback that's come in, we need an accessible mat, or there are several others that we've rattled off in this meeting and previous meetings. Mm-hmm. So I would like to speak to the misinformation that the board or that the staff is got this wall here and trying not to listen. We truly, no one in this room is looking to exclude. We were committed to remaining the lowest cost access beach. I think the point, Steve, about considering maybe a family limit or a price for young children with a paid adult, perhaps there might be something to look into for next season. As one of the comments that was brought up tonight, that was a new point that I appreciated this evening. I'll pause there. The rest of you guys, I know we've all noted down questions. I know there's a few more.
Yeah, there's been a couple other items that I wanted to note. One was a question about Evanston being free. That is a new initiative this year that Evanston implemented, and I'm sure it's something that could be considered in the future, but that is like unique and new. We did
free
study
to residents.
Free to residents. We did study all of the other.
Evanston also does not have a
communities.
park district, so they're able to fund it from general operations.
Right. So
There's an important distinction.
There's a couple of nuances, but I think it's important to note, and a community member did note, that Evanston is free this year for residents, and there are, again, some reasons and some caveats we understand. We also studied all of the neighboring communities in the North Shore, and including up through Waukegan, which is also a paid access beach. And so we're sensitive to that, and we know that these changes are meaningful for a lot of people. I think the other thing to note, though, and I want to make sure that everyone is aware of this, a resident pass for a senior 65 and over is $36. So it's an accessible option for many. For an individual, it's $64. And there are also family prices where it becomes much less per person as you add 1, 2, or 3 individuals. So, we're sensitive to this, and we want to be sure that there is, understanding of our intention to continue to provide access to the beach, as well as just to reiterate, the public trust doctrine allows people to walk along the water's edge, and that has been the case and will always be the case.
I just also would like to point out there was a comment made that all other beaches on all the coasts are free. That's not the case. I've been to New Jersey. You have to buy a beach pass to get onto the beach in New Jersey. Connecticut beaches charge. New Jersey beaches charge. On Long Island, Jones Beach charges. I don't know for sure about the Rockaways, but that is also a city beach, just so possibly not, I don't know. But there are many beaches that charge. This is not unique.
And I think I appreciate the concerns that questions are not being answered. We really do welcome and invite anyone to attend and hear responses to the questions. We try to answer them during the meeting when we can, but if we cannot, there's ample information on the website, and I'm hopeful that those who have open questions will remain to hear those answers.
So does anybody have any other questions about South Beach? I'd like to ask about, are we going to approach the questions about Gillson and the 5-foot sidewalk?
There was one other note I had. Someone asked us, I believe Miss D in the previous meeting handed us the FOIA, and I just wanted to confirm that was scanned in, circulated, and we all received that, and I did read that this week. I don't know if it was requested to be put into the packet, but it was certainly circulated to the board as she intended. Okay, Commissioner Duffy, I'm fine moving to the...
Yeah. Actually, before we do, I guess I think one of the residents had asked about our budget versus actual, some financial performance, and I think it's probably worth noting that we do our budgets at the end of the calendar year, and at that point, this plan wasn't on the table. There were some internal pro formas about the financial impact, but there wasn't a formal budget as we go through our budget process. And
there's a budget for the beach as a line item. And,
absolutely.
And
but
there's a very thorough budget that we publish.
Of course there is, but nothing
about the adjustment was within.
I think the question was about what we're doing at South Beach and how it compares budget to actual. And we don't have a line item for the South Beach revenue that was a part of our budget process.
Sure.
That's all that I'm trying to clarify. Because I think that particular resident had felt like we hadn't answered some of her questions. So I wanted to try to get some of that out
certainly,
as well.
Though, every month we provide financials.
Of course.
Every month, including this month, is a list of vouchers that are being reviewed and paid. Everything like that is considered.
Right. I was referring to the specific question about the budget versus the actual for South Beach operations, and just noting there was no formal budget for South Beach operations.
There's a woman here who would like to speak. She's deaf, and she didn't know that she could speak, and she's from Wilmette, and she would like to speak. She's deaf and did not know she could, and she'd like to speak now.
It's up to you.
Just a minute, just 1 minute.
Commissioners, all right, we're going to pause. We are in the middle of a regular meeting, but I will pause for the moment. Are you with this woman?
We're all together.
So do you have an interpreter?
She can speak.
My name is Nita Hemke. I live on Lawndale in Wilmette. I've been in the same house for 57 years. My friend Jeanette drove me over tonight. I have a very severe disability. I have a hearing loss. I've worn my hearing aids for 40 years. They're wonderful. I couldn't drive my car without them. I was a speech and hearing therapist when I got out of college. So I came down with Jeanette tonight, and I heard everybody, but I couldn't understand a word they said. I need T-Coil or Zoom or whatever. However, I came away with the most marvelous feeling. First of all, you're all sitting up there patiently and listening to everybody. Great. Nice opportunity to come down here. Every person that got up was so enthusiastic, well prepared, organized. I knew they were saying all these things, even though I could not understand. I have never felt so happy to see Wilmette citizens. I thought to myself, I live in this marvelous town where people get up and they were all organized. Nobody was doing unorganized things. It was wonderful. And you're all listening. And I thought to myself, this is what I'm coming away with. And when I sat there, I thought, I want to get up and tell everybody how wonderful this was. So I'm not going to talk long, because when we have hearing losses, we talk long because we want to stay in control. So anyway, thank you. And get your ears checked. I go to the audiology department at Northwestern. I've worn them for 40 years. They're great. And now the FDA has passed a new law. If you've got mild or moderate, you can buy a hearing aid for $500. Now mine costs $2,000 each. Do it.
Thank you.
Do it. It took me 7 years before I decided to do it. My husband was on a committee at Northwestern. We went to 15 Rose Bowls. I was out there, and one of the guys in the red jackets came up to me and said, Nita, you're telling me that you should wear hearing aids. He says, do it. You're hard on your family. Do it. So I did it. Took me 7 years to do it. Okay, thanks. Good night.
We're going to clap.
Bye.
Thank you, Nita.
I'll bring her back.
I would note that the order for how public comment works is published in the packet and can be read as well in terms of how the process works for public comment. Let's pick up where we left off. Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay, you were discussing budget.
Right, the person whose questions I wanted to answer has since left, so.
I
that's fine.
understand.
No problem.
Any other comments from commissioners with regards to questions that were brought up, or anything from Director Wilson's report?
The Gillson comments.
Yes.
So it was stated that there's a 100-foot retaining wall. There's a wall that is going to be how long, or a high curve,
And how
or
tall?
and how
So
tall, right?
the realignment of Harbor Drive will cause a need for a retaining wall in a couple locations. One is the triangle where the initial staff member sits at the fork in the road between Upper Drive and Harbor Drive, and then a little bit on the parkland area directly across from the Coast Guard station. That retaining wall is going to be 2 feet tall and set on the curb, so 2 feet tall plus the curb in total height. Obviously, the slopes behind it are taller than that. It's necessary to make sure we preserve the trees and the soil in that area from erosion, and that's what calls for that because of the realignment of the road.
So in another way of saying it, as I've asked you before, some folks have called it a retaining wall, maybe the engineers did. When I asked to explain it, I'm picturing it's a taller curb that is but up to the slope of ground that's already there. Mm-hmm. So we're not adding altitude to the ground. Right. We are matching the level plane that exists, but they are recommending to shore up that side of the berm. So if my name tag here were the slope of the ground, the retaining wall would be as tall as the name tag to shore that up, where today there is grass there, which I know I've walked that area. You go down a little hill. There's a little area to traverse. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an important clarification, and I know I've asked the engineers to present a rendering, something we can put on the website to clarify that confusion or circulate a visual to help people understand. When I hear the word retaining wall, I'm picturing something higher of an altitude. And I think it's important to clarify that it's the height of ground that's currently there today.
And if we could have another clarification, I know that some folks have come up and asked about some changes or expressing some dissatisfaction with some aspects of the plan. Just to clarify, Steve, at this point, we've gone out to bid, we've accepted a bid. For us to make changes to that, we would be in violation of the contract and subject to additional costs, perhaps? So
I think you would be subject to additional engineering costs to change the design, because this was the design that was selected. So all the detailed engineering, construction documents, bid documents were based on that. So it would be a change order within this current contractor, which beyond the engineering fees could also incur additional construction costs.
And I just wanted to clarify that at this point the contract has been
correct.
Yes.
Well, at one point, I went back and I looked. I was looking for something specific, so it's not very thorough. But at one point, this is supposed to have started already, and the only two things that held us back were the MWRD permit and then the water main at Lakeview Center. And outside of that, really, nothing has changed. I mean, obviously, there was the designation, and we talked about that. And I would encourage people to look at the February 23rd meeting where we discussed the alternate path and we discussed the retaining wall. And we talked about it May 27th, my second meeting. We talked about it July 24th. We talked about it in September. We talked about it in February. We talked about it in January. And then I found what I was looking for. So of the 24 odd meetings, it would be safe to say that I think we've talked about Gillson, not just as an agenda item, a third of the time. So I was just kind of surprised to have gotten the flyer, and in my brain I remembered, well, this is going to have supposed to have started in the spring. So.
And I think also that we've been discussing it for some time. How do we improve the curbs and roadways, but maintain the spirit and layout of the park? And I do believe we have maintained the spirit of the park. I don't believe we are changing anything dramatically. In fact, we've made efforts to make it as thoughtful as possible to keep the spirit of it. So this curb is an aspect that's new and has been written and is a concern. I view it as part of maintaining the ground so that it does not shift away. I think it's part of just structural engineering, in my opinion, and also the professional's opinion. The second piece is, and I agree with you, Mike, the contract is signed, but it's not as though we haven't taken great pain to gather and make thoughtful decisions to arrive at this contract.
Absolutely.
So I think your point is a good one, and I want to just build on that. And the second, item I would add, aside from the simple adjustments that are all in keeping with the spirit and the layout of the roadways, there is always an opportunity to add a walking path. That isn't changing, but I think we have all agreed we need to move forward with the cracked curbs, fixing the roadway, separating walkers from the entrance. We have, as I drive into the park, every time there are people trying to figure out which way to go on the roadway, and adding in a designation for where people can walk or ride or push strollers or use wheeled assisted devices, it is only a logical and simple improvement. So I appreciate the spirit of which our neighbors are asking and concerned, but I want to just assure them that we're not doing anything half-heartedly or without thoughtful input.
Additionally, I'd like to point out that the sidewalk that our children, grew up walking to school on is only 4 feet wide. Mine happens to be a carriage walk, which means it runs along Illinois Road, a very busy road, and is only 4 feet wide. This proposed sidewalk that we are putting in is 5 feet wide. To say that that's too thin for people to pass each other on or to walk together on seems a little bit of a reach to me. And that's because my children, your children, have walked to school on 4-foot sidewalks their whole lives.
I would also kind of add the path comment is the talking about adding the path as somehow separating bikers and walkers. And I would think that a path, this is a path within there, that bikers and the walkers are going to be on that path, and that's going to create the same issues that supposedly this path is going to is supposed to be addressing. It's That's the situation down in Chicago along the lakefront path. It's used by bikers and walkers, and there's a terrible number of collisions. And at least along Harbor Drive, we are having separately designated parts for walkers and separately designated parts for bikers. That won't exist on this.
All of which is an improvement from the current situation, which is zero distinction and not as wide.
And back to Julia's point, there's certainly nothing that prevents us from doing additional work in the future, but what's critical now is addressing the infrastructure that is failing, quite frankly.
Those roads have to be dealt with, the drains.
And the beautification of the park.
Yes.
The
which is
landscaping
the second
plan,
step,
absolutely.
which has been approved as well.
Agreed.
Did you get through your report, or did we interrupt you? Okay.
I paused.
That was a long pause. We'll resume the director's report.
All that remains in the report is the upcoming items under new business, where we will have an opportunity to accept, approve the first ever comprehensive and strategic plans for the Wilmette Park District, as well as kind of general business. Whenever we get rid of capital equipment or property, we pass an ordinance giving that authorization for disposal. And this ordinance is related to a 2011 work truck that has been replaced per the 2024 capital plan. That concludes the report.
Steve, do you mind commenting? There were a couple of significant foundation events at the lakefront since our last meeting. Do you mind commenting on those briefly?
Sure. On June 15th, the Wilmette Foundation held the Wilmette Open Water Swim, better known as the WOW. Always a fun event with our open water swimming community. Very well supported, very well attended, and everyone leaves with a WOWL, which is a Wilmette Open Water Swim WOW themed towel, and everyone enjoys collecting the new color each year. And then the following weekend, we did a new take on a maybe prior existing event. The Beach Bash morphed into the Back to the Bowl Bash and moved out of the parking lot at Gillson and into the Wallace Bowl to raise awareness for the foundation's efforts in fundraising for the restoration of Wallace Bowl. The event was well attended. I think around 500 people, 6 bands played, food trucks. People had a really great time. It was a wonderful setting for the event.
I have to confess I had a motive for asking about that because for the WOW swim, our very own Patrick Duffy made it to the podium. I'm sorry, Patrick Leahy. I know that maybe next
I was busy
year you would
working,
as well, but
helping.
But because he was in the top 3, I have this official medal from the Olympic swim trials in Indianapolis that I want to present to Mr. Duffy. So it's an official medal from the Skyboxes.
I just want to say thank you. There was
Motion
a lot of
to
hard
make him
work.
take that off.
It was a lot of hard work, but very fun nonetheless.
Thank you, Steve.
Well done. All right, so we'll invite up Superintendent Silver for the Parks report, Parks and Planning report.
Not too funny. Yeah.
You good?
We are on
Still celebrating.
That'll wore you down a
We
little.
are on
Please begin.
approximately page 200-ish of the packet if you're following along online and want to find Superintendent Solberg's report.
So the first update I wanted to provide is an update on the garden plot wait list. We currently have 72 people on the wait list at Centennial. We removed 12 gardeners from the wait list since the last time I reported, which was in April. This is just people who may be not interested in gardening anymore or plots that opened up from past renters that no longer want their plots. At West Park, we have 30 people on the wait list. 10 of those, or 10 people were removed from the wait list because we were able to get them plots. This number is higher than what we had previous because it is fluid. People can call tomorrow and be added to the wait list, so we continue to just add people to that wait list. Any questions on that? No?
Great, we've moved the wait list a bit.
Yeah. As Steve mentioned, we purchased a new bucket truck that arrived last week.
So we are looking to surplus the past bucket truck. At Centennial, we painted the outdoor exterior soffits on the building around the entire perimeter. We also replaced the bottle filler within the tennis building. At Gillson, we had to replace the changing station. The roof was vandalized, so we had to build a new roof for that changing station at the sailing beach. We had a issue with the plumbing lines in one of the restrooms within the Lakeview Center, so we had to rebuild some of the plumbing lines in those bathrooms. We also mounted a TV in what I'm being told is potentially the Washington room down in the basement, or Gage room, one of two. And we also replaced some of the decking along the patio by the showers of the beach house. At CRC, we are now transitioning to the new locking system that we have. It's called the Best Locking System. We've been gradually changing out buildings. So we change every lock, and we have a lot more control with who has access to one rooms or who has total access to the building with just one key. So it will eliminate, the need for a ton of keys for each building. At community playfields, we added gutter guards to the new bathroom shelter facility. And Malincrot and golf, we updated some LED lights. At Malincrot, it was in the library, and at golf, it was on the maintenance garage. We also assisted the golf staff in installing the aerator in the pond. The park staff, they were busy planting trees. We planted 61 trees this spring, and that was at community playfields, Kay, Thornwood, Centennial, and Lockerbie. They also started some of the landscape plans at Lockerbie. So we did some sod cutting. We added a path, some plants, and those trees. It's a nice little quick loop through the park.
Trail.
Emphasis on the word quick.
Very quick in the 0.008 acre of a park.
If you're in the under 2 set, that can take a while.
At Gillson, we had to cold patch the roadways. We obviously do that before the main event of the Yankee Doodle Dash. It is something that we do ongoing, but we really hit it hard before that dash since those roadways are a part of the race. We did a ton of watering, whether it was the turf or the trees, because we had that huge heat spell for a couple of weeks. So we did a lot less mowing and a ton of watering. We utilized those new irrigation wheels that we have, so we had to hit Thornwood and Hibbard Park because they were freshly seeded in the last couple of years, and they do show some stress a lot more than the other parks might. And then we did a ton of summer camp setups. So we set up tents, picnic tables, garbage cans to assist those summer camps out in the parks. And then both sides of the Parks and Planning Department, they do the setup and takedown for our major events. So 3rd of July, and then the Beach Bash. So they were working those events, and they also set up and take down for them. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm just going to share with you, I'm really disappointed that you've stolen my thunder at the end of the meetings. You've gone into greater detail than I do, but thank you for your staff. You guys do a great job.
Thank you.
But I would like to, I'm sorry, I would like to ask a little bit about Lakeview Center. You had mentioned that there were some plumbing issues in the bathroom, and we just completed a major renovation there. Could you tell us a little bit more about what happened there?
Those lines were not included in the project.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, we'll invite up Superintendent Merrill for the recreation report. Page 215 in my packet online.
Hello. June. So June is a big month for us. It's the start of summer camp season, which is our big ticket. The start of summer camp went very smoothly. At the time of this report, we were 3 weeks into camp, and we had what I would consider, and everyone's been saying this, things have been going really well. Everyone's knocking on wood. But I really attribute to the smoothness to the start of camp, to the training of our staff and the staff that we hired and the people that we put in place to kind of carry all this stuff out for us. With the exception of a few kind of hiccups in the first few days that were outside of our control, it really was a very smooth start to camp. And the little things that did come up, our staff rolled with the punches. Everybody dug in, everybody helped, everybody made it seem to the kids like nothing was wrong. And that's been my experience so far this summer, is that the kids are having an awesome time. We have happy kids at our camps, and at the end of the day, that's probably all that really matters for when we're delivering our programs to people. So I'm very thankful to our staff and to all the work that they've put in to get us to this point. Speaking of our full-time staff, we are now fully staffed in the recreation department. Obviously, we have great people. We have happy people, people that are going above and beyond, as you can imagine, on a daily basis. July 3rd, which is out of the scope of my report, but all of the recreation staff volunteered to be there at some point during the day. Some people volunteered to be there all day through the whole thing, and I didn't make them. I gave them the opportunity, and they all took it. And many people throughout the district, not just within the rec department, but a lot of staff members were there to support in some way, which is very cool. It shows that they care and they're committed to the things that we do. If you get out, which I know you do, to our facilities, to our parks, you're going to see our racket sports courts are packed full of people playing pickleball, playing tennis. They are out there. They're wanting more, which is a very good thing for us. It's a very good place to be. The beach is very busy. The people are very happy at the beach. The pool has been busy. People are happy at the pool. Everything from the interaction with our swim instructors to our lifeguards. I've seen it myself. I've overheard comments as I'm there with my kids talking about what a great job, for example, our swim instructors do. And I see it myself. Like, it's just a cool environment. And we'll go to the beach and I'll listen to people and I'll listen to the interactions that people are having on the beach. And they're very complimentary of our staff, our young staff. Everyone is correct that we do employ young people, and they have done a great job in dealing with everything that goes on at a public beach in the summer. I'm very proud of the work that they've done there, and it's really made a difference in the experience that people have had there. So that has been fantastic. Even our ice arena, fortunately for us, unfortunately for other communities, there's been some other issues at facilities where, for example, freestyle skate's not happening at other places, so it's happening in Wilmette. So the ice has been busy with freestyle skaters. So even our ice staff has been very busy this summer. So things are going well. I have some data that I can share if you guys are interested in some stats for memberships and participation and that kind of thing, if you'd like. If not, we can dump that into our next report, because it's kind of based off of the halfway point of the season. But things are trending well. People are coming to the beach more. People are buying more passes. People are parking more. People are going to the pool more. Our summer camps, we have lots of kids in our summer camps. We cut our wait list as we got towards the summer. So we feel like we got people in the places that they wanted to be in the time that they needed to be there. So I feel like the rec department is doing very well. And we owe that to the people that are out there every day doing it for us. So
I have a question for you.
Sure.
So there was, we received an email, when we were first doing camp registration, from someone that was, having difficulty getting their kids into some of the camps. In particular, is some of the camps down at the lakefront. And then I thought I read somewhere in our report that one didn't reach capacity, or one of those lakefront, whether it was sailing or whatever, didn't reach capacity. Those camps, are those the only camps that are having a problem reaching capacity? All the other camps are? Or can you speak to where we are with those camps, or what you guys found?
Almost none of our camps completely reach capacity, because it depends on what week you want. If you want week 4 and you don't get it, you didn't get the camp that you wanted at the time. So sometimes people have a little different perspective on things.
Right.
Yeah, some of our aquatics camps, some of our beachfront camps filled up. Some of them did not. We had down weeks the week of this last week. They were lower numbers because people chose to do other things, and that's just the nature of things. And our model all along has just been, have our staffing levels reflect that. So if there are fewer people in camp, then we try to have fewer resources dedicated to that, and we kind of just ebb and flow with the registration at the time and attendance.
So if I'm understanding you right. What you're saying is, if Salem can only handle so many kids, and you sign up on a week-to-week or maybe a 2-week session, whatever it is, there are some sessions that are full because we can only handle so many and staff so many. And there are other sessions that, like this past week, because it was more of a holiday week, that there weren't as many signups. And so that's just maybe what we're sensing the feedback on is, well, I wanted that week, but that was a busy week. And
Sure, especially specialty camps like that, where we have limited resources in terms of equipment or supervision or whatever the case may be. Like, those just fill up fast because there's a reason. Like, they're really good camps. And if people don't get the week they need, then they didn't get the summer camp that they wanted, and that's the perspective they have. So.
The email that I'm remembering was specifically in regards to an age group and the teen group.
City Slickers,
and
maybe?
yeah, it was the teen camp specifically. And I think you addressed this maybe a couple of meetings back, where your staff did a tremendous job in actually adding weeks to that camp to try to accommodate the wait list, and were able to help that population of kids to be able to access the camp. So another kudos to your staff that you adjusted and added staff where you needed to.
Yeah, we expanded some camps. We created a brand new camp. It didn't fill up, but it got a number of kids that needed a full camp for the summer into something new and cool, and we'll see that thing grow as time goes on. So, yeah, we're working to get everybody in camp that wants to be.
It always comes up in the beginning of the season, I'm on the wait list, what will that mean? And many of us have had this experience being on the wait list. The wait list moves. It's part of the way we plan our staffing. Don't lose hope if on day one you aren't on in the camp you want, things will change.
And it's, I'm sorry.
So thank you for that. I was going to introduce another topic.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, your report with the data, and you mentioned you were happy to go into it. I just want to call out, we're seeing, and I know how beloved our pool and lakefront are, but we've had 33,000 visits to the lakefront, and it's only early summer. It's pretty remarkable, the operation. The scans, 9,000 daily passes at Main Beach, 12,000 daily passes at South Beach, in addition to the season scans. So there's a lot of data that's in the report that often gets quickly passed over because we're late in the day, but it's really valuable data, and I'm glad you reported it.
And and the most recent data that I'm looking at is as of yesterday, we've surpassed seasonal totals already just as the 7th of July, and some we've blown out. Then we compare back to July 7th of 2023, and we've blown some of those numbers out in terms of people coming and buying passes and participating and coming to our facility. So people are coming out.
And is it fair to note, I understand we're tracking better this year now that we've improved the Wi-Fi and the devices that they're scanning. You changed that, I believe they changed it maybe mid-season last year or towards the end of the season. Is that right, Steve? So this year, the scanners, are they working well? And I've observed, rather than taking everyone's pass, once they've got one person in your household, they're like, okay, we've got you all. So
Who's with
it
you?
makes the lines move faster, but it also leads me to believe that we're more accurate in our reporting, which is great going forward as we continue to watch this. No doubt the numbers, I believe you that they're trending up, but also it's nice that we have more reliable data to keep watching as well.
And because we have control of the access at South Beach, now we're able to monitor that data, where we just had anecdotal information like, yeah, it was really busy there last year on this date. Now we can go back and look at the numbers and show that this is what busy is, and it's busier there than it is here, and it's busier on this day than there. So we also have a system that we're putting in place just as a broad brush for each day, as like a green, yellow, or red day, whether this was green in terms it was a perfect day for beach or pool access, and show like the numbers reflect this was a green day based on weather and those types of things. But so we'll be able to go back and compare, like, because some of the data then gets a little skewed, because actually this year has been a little bit, I think we had more bad weather days in terms of not days to close water or close pool, but just it's like, it's not that nice, I might not go to the pool today, compared to where we were at this point last year. So even with those into account, we've got more people coming to our facility, so it's great.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Call up Superintendent Thomas for the operations report.
Good
page 224 of packet online.
I feel like I want to challenge Dave to make one of those weather blankets where you crochet each day and it's whatever color it is based on the weather. So today I feel like it's a really exciting day. As of agenda items 7.1 and 7.2 will hopefully put 2 years of really hard work into motion by way of the comprehensive and strategic plans. I just wanted to do a quick recap, very short, because a lot of hard work has been put into this by a lot of different people, and it's been a long process, which started back in February of 2022 to where we are today, because if the items get approved by you all, then we're starting a whole new chapter, which is actually embarking on the comprehensive and strategic plans, which are 10 years and 5 years respectively. And it's a whole new journey that will be going on all together. So pretty exciting. So back in February 2022, which was when we first heard from Barry Dunn when Danny Wilson submitted the proposal in response to our RFP. So February 2022 feels like ages ago, and it was. But we announced the project via a press release in October 2022. We gave it a name, Project Parks and Play. We gave it an email address so people could correspond with us and tell us their thoughts. We held 2 open houses, 3 community pop-ups, had 4 feedback stations, and hosted 6 focus groups to make sure we engaged the community and listened to their feedback and gave them an opportunity to provide it in a variety of ways. We sent out a community survey in late January of 2023, or in early January 2023. We got the project website up that had the interactive map and idea board, and then the community survey went out to every household in Wilmette in late January 2023. After that, we had advisory panel meetings, we had staff meetings, we had presentations at various meetings to you all. We held a second community input session by way of a town hall meeting in March of this year. And then more presentations and feedback got us to where we are today. So there's a lot of different people who were involved in the process of these plans. Our consultants, Barry Dunn, led the charge and worked with us to get to where we are. They had additional consulting staff from Hitchcock Design Group, Woodhouse Tanucci Architects, Acuity Research and Insights, and Public Communications, Inc. So all of them were very important and instrumental pieces in the creation of this plan. I just want to thank our advisory panel, made up of a lot of community members, business owners, staff, and board, who continue to provide feedback to ensure that we were being transparent and that we weren't skipping a beat or glossing over something. We wanted to make sure that we had that advisory panel to ensure that we as a district were in tune with the community and what they might be hearing outside of these meetings. We had staff that attended many meetings and strategy sessions to help create the action items for what we wanted to do as staff, as well as what we thought the community wanted by way of the community survey. And then you all played one of the most instrumental parts. You guys listened to all the questions, you guys listened to all the different presentations, asked very thoughtful questions, pushed for more when you wanted to know more, which resulted in the great plans that we have in the packet today. So there were a couple updates to the plans that were in the initial packet, such as the board president letter that is in there now, a couple
it was translated from
grammar, it's translated in Latin, a couple grammar items that we still had to clean up, but they look pretty pristine at this point in time. So I've learned a lot, and I'm really excited to help you and the rest of our team here, move forward with those plans at that point in time. So next up for that particular item is July 15th for staff is the implementation workshop, where we really get to dive in a little bit deeper and figure out we have all these things, and now what do we do? So it's an exciting day for those 2 agenda items. Any questions on those? I know there's been a lot of talk. Awesome. Okay, moving on. The block party is coming up September 7th, so we're still looking for Kids Zone booth sponsors as well as general sponsors and volunteers. The Village Chamber and I have been working together on the event, and it's really exciting that we can bring it back to the community again. So if anybody out there is interested in being a sponsor or volunteering, just check it out on the website, and you'll be able to sign up that way. In the marketing world, our new marketing and communications manager, JP McNamara, starts on Monday next week. So super excited to have a full team there and get him on board and get rolling. First thing he'll get to come to is a strategic planning comprehensive plan strategy session, but it'll be a great way to introduce him to all the great things that we're going to be working on moving forward. We are continuing to work on the registration portal. So at the last committee of the whole meeting, we touched on Jackie from PCI, gave you guys a background on what information she was given and that she gathered at the focus groups and by way of the survey. Our IT team and our marketing team met today to review some of the additional changes to the actual portal homepage, adding different tiles. There's still a couple tweaks to be made. I am not a computer person on that back end, so I know a lot of work has to be tweaked within the setup, but that should be going out tomorrow to our focus group participants, and they can give us that real-time feedback for this is what we heard, did we get it right? So that's ready for the July 16th fall one or early fall release of the programs.
When's registration? The next registration?
July 30th is when resident registration starts. For camp registration, I know that there was a suggestion to move that back to January. That's something that Dave and I have been talking about as an option. However, it requires a lot more discussion than just on our side. As you guys know, we do a lot of our camp programmings within School District 39. So it's even if we wanted to have our registration in January, there's a lot of coordination that takes place with the school district in order to figure out which schools they're doing construction on, which schools have enough space. A lot of our camps shift from, Harper to Mackenzie and then over to Ramona, depending on where they're having summer school. So with it being summer and it being a little bit of a lull time with the schools being off, Dave and I have started the conversation, which is exciting, and we can continue that conversation when a little bit more of the school staff get in, but it's definitely something that we heard and that we can continue looking into.
Lindsay, is that something that was asked of the focus group? How would parents feel about camp registration coming out earlier, but with the location being TBD?
I'm not sure if they got into that detail. I do know based on at least our staffing and a lot of parents, sometimes they select the location of their camp based on where they live. So is their child able to walk to that camp? Is the staff able to ride their bike to that camp? So for parents, I'm not sure exactly how that went out, but even we can ask that question when we send out.
I think it would be helpful to include it. I think many people, that's when the conversation begins, and even if changes have to occur, changes are going to occur regardless. Mm-hmm. So if at least it's a block of time that's spent.
Like I know I want wiggle worms, right? Whether it's at Harper or Central, it doesn't matter. That's
exactly
the camp I want. Yeah, I can definitely follow up and ask the focus group participants that, because I think they're the ones that mentioned it. So thanks. Yeah. Okay, so additionally, we had the Yankee Doodle Dash. Steve said around 600. We actually had 596 people register for the race, which is our largest yet. We had 471 runners that crossed the finish line, despite the rain. And there was a lot of it, but a lot of happy faces. I was shocked at the amount of people that came out. Runners are dedicated people, and it was a lot of fun just to see everybody still going. And we had some really fun sustainable medals that were made out of wood this year. So if you haven't seen them, they're really cool. I really enjoyed getting mine after I crossed the finish line, so that was fun. Then in the sustainability world, Lucy has been meeting with various departments to review the sustainability plan. That one's not from us. And she's getting those meetings kicked off just to get everybody really in tune with the things that they are going to be responsible for assisting with within the sustainability plan. She's been working to create a web page on the Park District website dedicated to sustainability, as well as kind of outline various sections of the plan for an easy to read kind of snapshot of what's going on in there. So that's really great. And she's also been working with staff to create Unplug Illinois Day on Saturday, July 13th. So coming up this weekend, it is a statewide initiative created by IPRA, and it encourages people to get out, unplug, and engage with one another through parks, recreation, and conservation activities. So if you hadn't seen the information about it, we have some planned and structured activities and then some unplanned activities. We are going to do a beach cleanup and bird habitat tour in partnership with Go Green Wilmette. There's going to be a family-friendly bodyweight boot camp class on the Wallace Bowl stage. And then we're going to have some additional unstructured activities, including birding recommendations, stargazing tips at nighttime, and suggestions for packing a waste-free lunch, as well as a sandcastle showcase down at the beach. So that's all I have. Any questions on anything else?
Thank you. Superintendent Floyd for our finance report. Page 229 in my version of the online
The most
packet.
important pages in this packet, right?
Question.
I just want to comment that your pages are a different font size than everybody else's. You're just making it harder for us to read it. Is it?
we'll work on that. How's that? I like to do landscape
This
as best
iPad
I
like
can, right?
does this better.
Or maybe print those on legal and have the rest of it on letter, right? Okay, so most of what I'm going to say I've covered in my memo, okay? The year-to-date results for the district through May is close to $7.6 million versus $5.3 million budget, which puts us ahead of budget by $2.3 million. The large explanations in revenue are fees are ahead of budget by about $900,000. Part of that's related to deferred revenue, information coming. I'm working with Mike on some explanations for all of you. $188,000 is in miscellaneous revenue. 170 of that is in interest income. We've talked about that. There was this $30,000 reimbursement for the block party. That's part of it. We were short about $12,000 from concession fees. In May, we have received those in June. Okay. Operating expenses are 0.4% off the budget. That's super impressive. We'll see how it goes. You know, there was a 5 payroll, or 3 payroll, in May versus the budget could have been, split 12 or, 1/12 over the 12 months. I'll take a look at that when June closes. The capital budget is off, $1.2 million. Most of that is from what I budgeted for Gillson, thinking that some of that money would have been spent already. That project won't start until September. So the budget is going to start accumulating faster than actuals are going to hit. And you'll get all that detail when we talk in the cows. Anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Thank you. All right, now, the other stuff. So we issued our debt. It closed on June 4th. We received a little more than $5.4 million, paid about $86,000 in issuance costs. Just for fun, I'm putting together some numbers on what our debt issuance have cost since I've been here. That's what I have access to that. So we'll see. We had a $3.2 million issuance 2 years ago. So I want to take a look at what those costs look like. We're pulling that stuff together. Our annual financials, which was so surprising to me how many places I have to file these things. They went to 12 separate entities, county, state, and the GFOA, because we apply for, the award for excellence every year. So we file it there. And the website, so 13 places. I want to make sure I get all my credit. And right now we're in the process of renewing with the grant programs for the Fed, SAM, also known as System for Award Management, and then Illinois GATA, which is the Illinois Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. You would think that would be something that would be easy to do. It just isn't. It should be done by the end of this week. We do a treasurer's report. I finished that. It was done by June 30th. I want to talk a little bit about the unclaimed property. We have checks that are outstanding. If they're outstanding over a certain amount of time, we got to, this is such an old school term, is sheet that to the state. Those of you who might know what that means, we just write a check to the state, give them a list of who it belongs to, and then the state takes over ownership of that. We have to send out notifications 60 days before the filing. The filing is due 11/1. I send out letters every year to everybody who has an outstanding check to see if we can kind of not send anything to the state. You're going to see replacement checks in the voucher list because all payments that I make show up in the voucher list. That's what that's referring to. People are like, oh yeah, that's my paycheck, or hey, we didn't cash this check or whatever. So we're working on that. The customer service summary is it's just very cute. If you get a chance to read through that, it's kind of good. She's a really good writer, and she does a great job. The IT department has been very busy, as you all know. We're doing some server upgrades where they set up, laptops and iPads for camp. They just finished configuring. I didn't even know that this existed, but an uninterruptible power supply. So when Bill is telling me UPS, obviously we all know what I'm thinking about, and I'm like, what does this have to do with it? Anyway, so that's set up. And then I just wanted to add one more thing. that the county has timely mailed out their invitations to pay the second installment of property taxes for Cook County. This means collections should probably happen in July and August. And of course, I've got them budgeted for November and December, so we will be running variances on that through the end of the year. And that's it. Anybody have any questions?
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
No one talked about A. Cornelius Wuppet this evening. I don't know who that should have fallen on. Lindsay? There's a fun puppet mascot-y person, A. Cornelius Wuppet, that's been all over social media. My kids are very big fans, and they're regularly asking me if he has posted recently. So look for A. Cornelius Wuppet. If you don't know what I'm talking about, someone in the room looks confused, Walter. Go check out social media. It's kind of fun. He's reporting from the canopy because he looks like a tree, something like that.
Acornelius.
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 You have to go find out for yourself, but it's fun. Thanks to the teams that provide entertainment with your reports as well. That brings us to unfinished business, of which we have none, so that brings us to new business. I will entertain a motion for number 7.1 on our agenda.
I move to approve the comprehensive plan for the Wilmette Park District.
I second.
Seconded. Discussion?
A lot of time went into this.
Here.
As Lindsay highlighted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On behalf of the board, we
Thank
extend
you.
our thanks to the staff, to Superintendent Thomas, to the community for all of the community's participation throughout many different venues over 2 years worth of time. In some ways, this is clearly a milestone, but it is not the finish line. I've said this is the starting line. This is really the sounding gun for the true work to come. As Superintendent Thomas mentioned, there's a 5-year, we're talking about the comprehensive plan. Which one is it?
10 years.
This is the 10-year plan. There's a 10-year plan and a 5-year plan, but really the true value in those is keeping them, looking back at them on a regular basis. It will become a routine for staff to be a resource to now use, and the community's input has gone into that, and that will be continually refreshed and used as the vetting point for work to come. And so much effort has gone into it. It is the first time that the Wilmette Park District has completed these plans, as I've learned from attending the Illinois Parks and Recreation conferences over the years. Many other districts have these and use them on a regular basis, and sometimes I'd sit in the room as they're all talking about their plans, feeling very left out. We are left out no longer. Wilmette's got our plan, and I do believe it will be a very valuable resource and a good anchor point to, or a North Star to guide the future direction of this district. Shall we take a roll call?
Commissioner Leahy?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Yes.
Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes.
Comprehensive plan is approved.
7.2, the strategic plan.
I move to approve the strategic plan for the Wilmette Park District.
I'll second that.
Discussion. My comments apply again. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Leahy?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Yes.
Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes.
Strategic plan is approved.
Congratulations, staff. 7.3, surplus property ordinance.
I move to approve the surplus property ordinance 2024-0-7.
I second.
Any discussion? I was trying to find, it's on page 205 of the online packet. Roll call.
Commissioner Leahy?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just glad someone can take our properties. Sorry.
Commissioner Leahy?
Well, after her comment, I'm not sure, but yes.
Well, we got an extra 3 years out
Yes,
of it,
yes.
so that was great.
The answer is yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Yes.
Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes.
Ordinance is approved.
Agenda 8.1, adjournment to closed session.
Yes. I move to adjourn to closed session for the discussion of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the district or against legal counsel, to determine its validity in accordance with Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act.
I second that.
Roll call.
Commissioner Leahy?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Goble?
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Yes.
Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes. We are adjourned to closed session.